Hello, my fellow YouTubers. This is Roy back again. Let's get right to it. Let's give this thing a heartbeat. So tonight we got the oscilloscope set up. Got channel 1, the top will be this right here, and this is the pickup coil. Channel 2, the lower one, will be a pickup coil, but we're just coming off of channel 2 from it. It's not hooked up to anything, it's just it by itself. So we're going to check its rate, its heart rate. Now coming out of this, we're going into my voltage multiplier, and I only got it set up one time. So it's multiplying 1. And we also have a load that's in the pipe here. And I got it hooked up to the voltmeter. And let's give it a whirl. Let's turn some lights down. Get it turning. So we got a load on it. Adjust the glare. Probably better if I put some light on, huh guys? Let's see how that works out. Hopefully you can see it better. So right now, let's go ahead and take the load off. All right, load's off. We'll stop the wheel from turning. And we should have 2 dual lines. One of those regular. That's dual lines. Now let's go ahead and get the wheel turning. This is with no load. So you can see the two PMHs are out of phase. They're not snapping the same time. You can see we're not showing a smooth AC signal on any of them. Look how rough the top ends are. That's the one and that's the other. That's the signals we're getting from the two PMHs. Now let's go ahead and we're going to put the load on. Load's on. Now look at the difference. The bottom one is with the load and the top end of that bottom flattens out. Meanwhile, the other PMH, the top, stays somewhat more domed. This thing's running so smooth. Worked on getting the resistance out of this wheel. I have a thrust bearing on here as well as a wheel bearing. Wheel bearing sitting on top of a thrust bearing. And this thing is wailing it. Back to the sine wave. So there's one more thing I want to show you guys. Instead of going into this, into that load, let's go ahead and we're going to go out of the multiplier. Well, let's check the voltage first of all. Let's see where we're getting up to. All right, so that voltage obviously is not hooked up. Can't be hooked up. We got no damn volts coming out. Let me see, voltmeter, voltmeter. I don't know what to say. Sometimes I feel like a nut. Sometimes I don't. Come on, we gotta get some volts up there because something's not. Gotta dig deep. Something's not connected. I just don't see it. And it is something. Craziness. I say to myself, only when I'm making a video. Sugar. Oh, honey, honey, taking the load off. Anything going on? Nope, that thing should be. All right, so we got a breakdown. So we're showing off. No wonder. Right now you can see the two heartbeats of the wheel. That's I hate troubleshooting for any of you guys, but I guess you can see the human side of this crap, right? So we're coming out of one leg here, and we're feeding the negative of the rail. We're coming out of the positive leg, and we are feeding this. Nothing still. All right, and then we're coming out of that to that. We're hitting this. Houston, do we have a problem here? On connection, nope, still nothing going on. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, I see movement, so it's this guy. What are you doing, diode? Let's get rid of you. We want a new one. There you go. We don't want that one. We'll take this one. So that diode should be going out. So we're going to come out of that leg into the positive. Still nothing on the voltmeter. You gotta be kidding me. You gotta be kidding me. Alright, what do you go after next? Mr. Cap. Nada. Craziness, nada. Wait a minute, we got movement. We got nothing. What is up? I just gotta say impossible. Frickin' impossible. Impossible. Look, disconnect the leads. Still nothing. All right, this is when you go bare bones. I'm going just from the PMH. I know something is going to show up. It's going to give me some inspiration. There we go. One side. Now the other side, we're going to disconnect from there. And we're going to go here. And we should get something on the voltmeter. Then we're going to go after this shit. Wait a minute. Alright. Something sharp on the voltmeter. Now it's moving. You'd have to put a bridge rectifier on it in order for it, but you could probably go up to AC. Let's see what it does and spin it. Let's see. That's AC. 6 volts. Not a lot of power. Drop it down to DC and see what the hell happened here. So that means it's doubler. Needs a little doubling. The multiplier. Alright, let's try going back in here. And we'll come out of that and we'll tap to that so we can get voltage. And then we're going to come out of this. And we're going to come out of that, count voltage. Alright, and we're coming out of that. And we're going straight to the PMH. Already I'm at 2 volts. Look at this, just like this. So we're working now. Let's give it a whirl. And let's watch it go up. Perseverance, I call it. This is the St. Vinny blood. So speed does matter. No load. 18 good volts. Over here we're looking at, we're reading 1 pulse. So we disconnected this, and this right here is that pulsing all by itself. Straight line is going to be this. So let's go ahead and connect this back up. Alright. Where are we? So we're going back. To that. And that. Now we should have a dual effector. Let's see what's going on. So voltage wise, it'll stay the same. Look at this. So the capacitor, 17.62. The wheel, we'll stop the wheel. The volts is still up. Saved in this capacitor right there. So this capacitor right here will hold the volts. Now that capacitor is holding half the volts. How about that, guys? So let's go ahead and spark this. All right. And that one there, it just goes to the positive and negative. And now we still got 4.5 volts from this guy. Pull that out. Still sitting there. So where could it be stored? Did it move over to that one? Let's pull that one out. Ready? Bam! Pull that one out. So you've seen it move from capacitor to capacitor in this. This is pretty amazing because the circuitry does help me understand how to move and store power around this wheel. Hope you guys understand that. So let me see, we're coming back in. Let me put this back in because we're going to show one more last demonstration. You guys are going to see this and kind of understand that I'm going to be determined, which I showed you guys tonight, that determination is a great attribute to have as a developer. Now let's go ahead and put this back to the positive negative. We're back to 4.5 volts because I didn't discharge that. Let's get this thing spinning. All right, I just gave one little tug and we're already up to 9 volts. Now, one thing I noticed that when you go to store energy, so I'm just using basically diodes here, and we're storing energy, but we're only up to 9 right now. So the speed of this, now it going by, it's not increasing. It's actually dropping now. So the capacitors are giving into the push and pull that's going on in the magnet, right? You guys follow me on that? So let's go ahead and get some speed going here. And we're going to see that we can increase the pressure. So we're up to 24 volts. Probably could pull some good current out of that if I put a big load on it. But I'll tell you what happens when you put the load on it. See how right now we're staying at 21 volts? That's maintaining, even though the pressure is going down now, like the hose has been turned off, the pressure is going down. We're still maintaining the volts in the capacitors the way they're set up with the diodes, which I love. I think that's golden. So we have stored power. So very important to learn when you're doing your own wheel at home and you're messing with magnets, you're messing with coils, you're messing with capacitance, you're messing with resistance. You know, the numbers come in and start to make sense on your wattage numbers and your power numbers. What is power? So let's go back to the final thing I want to show you is, so we're not going to go into the load this time. This time we're going to dump the load and we're going to go into this other PMH. So this is what we're going to do. You see the wheel moving on its own? So we're going to use this, come out of here into a voltage multiplier. Come out of the voltage multiplier, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to fire up that PMH. Now, what am I looking to do? I'm looking to turn the wheel, use this as a pickup, increase the voltage, come out of the voltage and go into that PMH and power that one up so it'll turn the wheel. So the wheel becomes perpetual. This is just for starters. So the issues that I'm dealing with right now are your, not Lenz's law effect, but the fact that when I go to dump into that coil over there, it bottoms out everything. So I'm going to show you an example right now. What I mean by bottom out, the saturation of the iron is so enormous that I can't provide enough current and voltage I can do small doses. Now, if I pulse, this is what I've learned. By knowing that you can't connect to it and just dump out, all right? We're not making enough. But that doesn't mean we can't get there, because I could keep stepping up the voltage. And when you have more voltage, you have more current. So we could go after that and keep power on it and get more power on it so it pulls the wheel. But this is the thing, it will keep bottoming out and dumping out. The same principle as my DC power supply, which is right there. So when I take the DC power supply and put it to the PMH, it on the amperage side and the voltage side stays where it's at. The amperage side dumps. And what happens when it dumps, it empties the capacitor inside the DC power supply, and then it puts a ripple into the DC. So it's not really DC, it's like AC. So one thing I want to show you, two things I think one thing you were already seeing was when you put a load on it, it changed the top of the AC, and you can see the wave difference, okay? The signature of the wave. We'll just leave it there. Then you go ahead and you put out of the multiplier, you go in AC. So AC is straight out into here. You come out DC into there. And the key thing is you have to pulse it. Even though when we turn this and the light comes on, it looks brighter, like it's pulsing. It is in a sense, but it's not pulsing enough for that PMH to be electromagnetically like I want it. But if I sit here, and I can't do it with one hand because I need two hands, but if I separate the wire when I connect it to that and I pulse it, you can see the voltage that drops out of this voltmeter becomes now where it charges back up, and then it bam, charges back up, bam. At those moments, I'm able to perpetually get this wheel to turn because I already see it's happening, and I'll be able to, once I figure out how to take that, let it charge up, and then it hits the PMH, and it has to be some type of magnetic switch that's going to tell me, or it's going to charge a capacitor and dump the capacitor, which is tied to that PMH. It's unreal. So I'm going to show you this. And the wheel is going to look like it doesn't want to stop. And that's kind of what I'm getting at. So we're going to go ahead and just connect that PMH to the multiplier. Now, like I said, remember, we're dumping out of the multiplier. And that's where maybe I'll figure out something with the capacitance of the multiplier where I use the same principle as the multiplier but use that as my storage. A capacitor, say about this size. So this capacitor will be filling and dumping into that PMH. And the multiplier, I'll go bring the voltage up. So say if I bring it up to 100 volts, and when you kind of dissipate what 100 volts is, and then you put a load on it, it may be 60 solid volts would say, you know, with good current. And that's what that PMH needs, because it needs a car battery with both ends, and bam. So we need some negative. I'm going to come off the negative. Then putting these things in series, these two, going into one, coming out of the other end, going in the other one, coming out and going back, increases the voltage. And I got them set up now where they're both firing at the same time, and that's a whole nother video. I don't got time tonight to do that, but you're gonna like this too. What you're gonna notice here is, the only thing you're gonna notice is that the wheel, when it goes to slow down, it's gonna, when I get it going, it's going to want to go, because every time this is flipping its poles, its back EMFs create a magnetic field, which is running through the circuitry. It's doubling, coming out of that into that PMH, but it's because of its amount of mass of iron in there, it's bottoming out. These capacitors, whatever they can provide, it can't provide enough. That'll just keep taking it. But right now it puts enough a little magnetic charge in there where it starts tugging on the wheel. So there you go. Especially when it does slow down, you're going to see how it's acting to the PMHs. So one PMH is the pickup, the other one's receiving, the other one is the driver. So it's driving the wheel. So I don't know if I'll have to get 2 more PMHs, but I love the whole concept. I love the whole thing about maybe first focus on getting the wheel turn on its own without any additional power. Only power the wheel needs is what it makes. So this is where the wheel slows down. This decreases, the voltage decreases, and so does a small magnetic field that's over there. See how it keeps going? So I just had an idea. So maybe it's not a PMH that's a driver. Maybe what Ed was saying, that it would be an encased iron casing with a coil in it and a core. And what he says is the core and the outside coil will be opposite poles. So the PMH, the way it's set up, is opposite poles. But if you had a core and the outer ring would be the opposite pole. I got to think about this because maybe it's a single one core casing with a coil that becomes like the frickin' the magnet they have at junkyards pretty much is set up like that, to where it's real strong magnet, and you don't have to put a lot into it, but I'm going to have to look at the inductance and build a coil based on not so much permeability to where it's going to just pull me in and use up all of it. So maybe where ferrite cores, when I done a couple videos ago, I showed the ferrite core had a lot of magnetic strength and it released. And the ferrite core is really good for radio transmission, especially in ham. So, you know, maybe that would be a good driver coil encased in an iron casing so it's efficient and enough power to keep, because the wheel don't really need a lot of, I got the resistance down really good on the wheel, meaning that the weight of the wheel in perspective to, I mean, the weight and the resistance that weight builds up is minimal now. I mean, I really did 40% better. Look at this thing, 40% better. It's crazy. I can even do better. I know that. I know that. This is about efficiency. All right, you guys. Peace out, man. Sorry to chew your ear off like that.